I don't know what it is about a leather jacket, but it makes me feel like I won't, but I could. Trust me when I say I've been just as excited for this update as you guys, okay? We have an update to the cops finally picked up my crazy neighbor. If you missed the first part, it's right up here. You're gonna wanna watch it. All right, the first part of this update was posted May 25th. 2025. I haven't updated in a while, even though some stuff has happened, so I could save it for this giant update. Music to our ears. The bridesmaid party was last night and the wedding is today. The ceremony just finished just a couple minutes ago and I got the news of what happened by a mutual friend who went to the wedding. I didn't know he was a mutual friend or going to be at the wedding. I told him about the situation a while ago and he decided to let me know. He paints a picture because this guy gives us the best updates. Friday, CN, which means crazy neighbor, kept looking over the fence. I would have turned on sprinklers, but I don't have any because I don't really have grass in my backyard. Later in the day, a police car pulled into CN's driveway and a bit after, it left. CN's revenge of staring at me continued a lot more after that. I don't understand why she wastes her time doing it. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. Saturday, some people knocked on my door midday asking if I could let them into the backyard to set up for the bridal party. I called GD and he said it was the right people, just to be safe. They set up some surprisingly expensive and nice decorations and furniture in the yard, not in a destructive way. People come in and out while setting up and the backyard looks amazing. CN continuously peered over the fence for a good moment of time, but I didn't care. I feel like we're expecting her to watch and stalk and look at the whole thing. Of course. Around 6, B, bride, and all the bridesmaids. I'll do M for bridesmaids. Also, there was about 20 bridesmaids there. I stayed inside mostly, but they occasionally asked me to come out and they drunkenly thanked me. I think the M's were very wealthy as I received a little over $3,000 in tips. I didn't know we were accepting tips. I mean, he is letting them use their yard free of charge. I received a little over $3,000 in tips from them as I occasionally brought out a carton of ice cream. Well worth it, I think. More to the events of the party. CN had a campfire in her backyard around 9, but there wasn't really any wind, so the smoke just stayed in her yard. I think she tried to smoke us out, but maybe she was just having a little fire. I doubt it though. She then gets her hose to put out the fire and accidentally sprays water over the fence. Eventually, once the party winds down and they're packing up, bride hands a card signed by all of them thanking me for hosting with additional tips inside, about $2,000. So you've made $5,000 from this. I was honestly stunned by how nice they were. Around 11, a very drunk CN bangs on my front door as I'm about to go to sleep. I don't answer, but I have the video on the doorbell camera. She leaves after a bit and I go to bed. Now, this morning, this is a second-hand account, so I won't have all the details. Lame. CN comes to the wedding in her very white dress. She done did it. She wore a white lacy dress and demands to be let in, but the security denies her. She tries to push the security, but he isn't fazed. People were watching, but my friend who was there had to go do something. I didn't ask what. When he gets back, CN isn't there. CN bangs on my door and tries the knob. Since I was getting groceries a bit before, I had accidentally left it unlocked. She comes into my house. I call the cops as soon as I see her open my front door. I run upstairs while I give the info to the cops. CN screams at me and eventually slaps me in the face. I'm screaming at her to leave and she tries to slap me again. I grab her wrist and she screams. I basically drag her out the front door as the police arrived. She is put in the back of a cop car and the police interview me. I tell them and they leave. Then I get the news. CN is not back. I honestly won't argue with people about this if it's true or not, as what happened this morning doesn't even feel real, though I just lived through it. So she was arrested. She could be going to jail. We do have an update. This is the most recent update in the story, which was June 2nd. CN still hasn't come back from the police station, or she's been hiding in her house. If she hasn't come back, which I think she might not have been able to pay bail, but I have no legal knowledge really. She is apparently facing north of 3 years in jail, but there's a good chance she'll get less or not at all. I grilled some food Saturday and hosted a good amount of the neighborhood. As much as I would like to say I was cool and collected after the assault, I felt a bit shaky and not great, so having some people over seemed like a good idea. I think it's mostly worked. Last night I went in the hot spring and it was really nice to hang out. So that's where we're at. I don't believe that this is the end of the story. I think there's gonna be more, and you know I'm gonna keep my eyes on it. But since the update's not as long, we're gonna jump into some other neighbor drama stories because they're everywhere. This one is called Strange Neighbor. Hey y'all, I'm a 25-year-old woman in Scotland, and last year I moved into my first flat or apartment for the Americans. Everything is quite good here except for my next door neighbor, who has taken a dislike to me on account of the fact that I smoke some leaf sometimes. She asked if I could stop smoking it in my living room because she said that she could smell it. I was very embarrassed and I apologized because I didn't expect her to be able to smell it. I don't smoke in my living room anymore and she hasn't said anything since, so I assume it's okay. But it has created some tension and we don't say hello or speak to each other at all. This is all fine. I just keep myself to myself. She actually isn't the neighbor I'm having trouble with. Oh, but I think she might be involved. My downstairs neighbor is a single man in his late 70s. He is very, very nosy and he talks badly about basically everyone on the street, especially my next door neighbor. He seemed to really dislike her and her partner. He said they had been living there for 5 years and he had never spoken to them. I've tried to just be nice and polite, but it can be difficult as he wants to stand outside talking for hours, even when it's raining, windy, and even snowing. You couldn't pay me to have a conversation out in the snow, unless it was with my Cyrus. I would do that for free. I'm a pretty introverted person, and this can be really uncomfortable and sometimes frustrating for me, so I've tried to avoid him as much as possible. He does pretty annoying things like emptying his bird's mess into my garden, but I've just tried to ignore it. No point in making a big stink over feathers and bird poo, but still, I think he should empty the mess in his own garden, yeah, or even, and this is revolutionary, the bin. Love the sarcasm. He also sprinkles grit all up the side where my garden meets his to kill the weeds, but it killed everything. The grass is completely gone now and it looks really bad. But again, it just doesn't seem like a big enough problem to make a big deal about. He tells stories that he's already told multiple times, and at first I thought he was just lonely, but over time these stories became quite disturbing. He tells a story about his 2 daughters, who he hasn't had contact with since they were young, teens. Being in the bath together and him telling them to put their pants on in the bath so he could come in and wash their hair. I'm so confused. I don't think the fact this happened is inherently strange, but why is he telling a young woman he barely knows about this? The other story that upsets me is about a Shetland sheepdog he had with the family. I'm probably saying that wrong. He said that the dog's dew claws were very sharp, so he took it out back. He took it out back and tied it to a tree so it couldn't run away, and then, I'm gonna cry. Oh, I'm gonna cry. He pulled the dew claws out with pliers. So disturbing. That is animal abuse. I could cry just at like thinking a dog went through that. I was visibly disturbed by this and I had no idea what to say, so I just told him I was cooking and I had to go back upstairs to check on my food. Yeah, see, I would have said much other things. This neighbor of mine is how we would say in Scotland, very orange. This means he is a die-hard Protestant. He supports football teams associated with the religion, has Protestant tattoos all over his arms, and listens to music associated with the religion as well. This wouldn't bother me at all since I really couldn't care less about any religion, but he frequently talks about how much he hates Catholics, and I was raised Catholic. Just a side note in case anyone isn't familiar with how religion works in Scotland, Protestants and Catholics have a very long blood history of hate and violence against one another. It is also very heavily influenced by the two football teams that represented each religion in the past. The Protestant team Rangers and the Catholic team Celtic. I'm really worried about him finding out about my background because he told a story about how he got someone fired from their job for wearing a crucifix around his neck. He called this man a Fenian bastard, which is essentially a slur against Irish Catholics. It's very disturbing. Lately, I noticed he wasn't bothering me as much, and I got to a point where it seemed like he was the one avoiding me. Then one day I noticed he was chatting with my next door neighbor, and it became very frequent to a point where she asked him to watch her 2-year-old son for an hour one day. Now, you don't just leave your toddler with anybody, so she obviously trusts him, and they have become quite close. I didn't think much of it at the time, but for the past few weeks, my dog has been really sick. If they did anything to your dog, he's throwing up a lot and has a bad toilet, which isn't uncommon with him because he's notorious for eating anything he can find outside, but he's never been this sick for this long before. Obviously, I decided that he couldn't go out on his own anymore because the only time I'm not watching him is when he's in the garden, so I thought that must be where he's eating things. I actually caught him eating something last week, and when I went to check, I discovered hundreds of tiny chicken bones. These are really dangerous for dogs to eat, so I picked them all out of the grass and I binned them. The next day, I caught my dog eating something again, and again I found a load of chicken bones sprinkled all around the garden. I live next to a lane that people walk up and down all day, so I decided to put a camera at my bedroom window to see who's throwing these bones in my garden. When I checked it out, I discovered it was my downstairs neighbor throwing the bones in my garden. Psychopath. I decided to mention to him that my dog was really sick because of the chicken bones, and I wasn't sure who was doing this, just to see what he would say. He told me that an old man who walks through the lane eats chicken every day, so it must be him. I didn't even know what to say to that, but I hoped by mentioning it, it was making the dog sick, he would stop. Unfortunately, I have found chicken bones in my garden every day since then. It's to the point where I think he's doing this deliberately now, but I have no idea why. He's trying to kill your dog. I think it's either because he's friends with my next door neighbor who dislikes me now, or maybe he somehow found out that I was raised Catholic. I seriously don't know any other reason he would be doing this to me, but I'm really worried for my dog's health and safety. I don't know what else to do as I really don't like confrontation, and I don't want to make the situation worse in any way, but it is such a bad situation. I have to go out every morning and pick up all the chicken bones before I can let my dog out, and I don't get them all of the time, so he's still getting sick some days. I am just deflated from the situation. I don't get why he's trying to make my dog sick. It's not his fault that I'm antisocial and can't make friends with the neighbors, and he doesn't deserve to be harmed because a strange old man has an unspoken problem with me. And apparently other dogs too. Can you not take this video to the police and be like, I need to make a police report because I fear that my dog could be harmed and possibly myself. Perfect time to hop on hydration station. It's water in my cup. It should be in one of yours. I don't care what's in the other one, but drink some water. Cheers. The next one is conveniently called police report. I need help with a family that moved in a couple years ago. They have a motion detector camera that detects everything that happens in my yard, and they are nosy. They are from a different part of the world, and I don't think they understand the American sensibility of hi neighbor, bye neighbor, Every time my family is in the yard, the lady or her weird, starey son will jump out of the house and want to come talk to us. I've caught her son just standing and staring into my first floor sliding door from his yard. It was the creepiest thing. He just came to the fence line and looked into our sliding door for a full 2 minutes. It's amazing how he wasn't worried about being seen by the other neighbors as a voyeur. If we have yard work done and we are dealing with landscapers, she will walk back and forth with her grandchild, so it seems like she is just walking him, but she has this look in her face where you just know she wants to know what is happening in our yard. She always wants to come over, always rings our doorbell, but my mom's uncomfortable with her nosy questions, and my mom thinks she just wants to get in and scan our house so she can go back and gossip about whatever. We will have friends over and she will come and ring our doorbell. We don't open the door for her because it has gotten tiring, but she just doesn't get the point. Yeah, like, please leave me alone. Please don't bother me ever at home. My family will be away on Sunday mornings and they have gotten to know this. And we have found out that they roam around our front yard. They come and stand in front of our flowers in the yard and take family pictures and take selfies with our house in the background. It's all so weird. They always use our sidewalk. They will congregate, 4 of them, on my sidewalk, and I swear they are trying to listen to what is going on in the house because we have a little vent from our crawl space and you can hear conversations we have in our living room through that vent. We have that closed in the winter, but in the summer we have to take it off so mold doesn't grow. There are so many other instances where we feel that we are being watched by her and her son. I hate when they know when we leave and when we come back. It's like they know our schedule better than us. How can I not set off their motion detection camera every time we have a guest or when we pull out of our car when we have to go somewhere? Thanks. Edit. So we were in our yard today planting some privacy trees, and guess who jumped out of their house in the pretext of walking the grandchild to come ask questions? I don't think the other lady liked the fact that we were planting a tree to hide her line of sight from our car. She just kept staring at it. We have an update. I was thinking about making an incident report and not a police report of the suspicious things my neighbor from hell has done. The trespassing and taking pictures of our house, the peeping into the window and loitering around on property when we're doing yard work, but I don't have exact dates and times. I also don't have video. I want to have a record just in case they do something and I need to call the cops. However, I'm not sure what will happen. Anyone have any experiences of making reports of past instances? Do I have to remember the exact dates? Also, will they be notified if it's just a report? Getting a camera soon. Thank God for that, because that was the only piece of advice I had. I was like, yo, set up some cameras, especially in the front yard where they're loitering around and they're taking pictures. You can at least get that on camera. Are you famous? Why do they want pictures with your house? Like, not that that's okay, but I'm just trying to understand the reason. Like, selfie, let's get our neighbor's house behind us. Ah. Why? That is so bizarre to me. Upstairs neighbor partied until 5 a.m. on a Monday, then passed out drunk and had the same song on repeat for 4 hours. I feel like we just got the whole story, to be honest, but I want the details. Just moved to a new place. It's a quadplex in a very silent suburb, and my upstairs neighbor told me a few days after I moved in, hey, I can get noisy at times since I work from home, so I hope that's not a problem. That's a problem. I told him it wasn't. I don't mind a little background noise since I grew up in the middle of a big city. Plus, I couldn't care less about noise during the day. I also don't care about weekend parties. I get that people like to have fun. And I'm not averse to parties myself, so not a big deal. But Jesus effing girl, using the Lord's name in vain. Last night unleashed in me torrential rage. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of a bunch of mid-30s drunk men screaming at the top of their lungs to music. I laid there for about half an hour debating whether to get up and trying to figure out if they would be winding down soon. And I'm a deep sleeper, so it was pretty effing loud. Finally, I get up and I start banging on the ceiling. Nothing. I go outside and I try the door to the stairs up to his place and it's locked. I go to the middle of the street to confirm that the party is super audible even from there, just to make sure I'm not a complete overreacting a-hole. Nope, super audible. I scream at the top of my lungs, "Can you shut the F up and turn it down?" Nothing. I go back inside and I call the city's PD non-emergency line. I'm told they will send someone over, but half an hour later, I don't see anyone. I go back to bed and lie with my eyes closed, fuming, and honestly close to tears because this work week is going to be really stressful for me and I have to get up early. At 5 a.m., I hear people thundering down the stairs and finally they leave. I fall asleep until 6 a.m. for an hour. When my neighbor, who is probably super drunk, drops a bunch of really heavy items or falls or something and wakes me up. Again, not a big deal, right? Well, now that I'm awake, I realize he's playing this Lady Gaga song. I don't hate Lady Gaga, but as of the morning, It's Bright Out Now wears on, I realize it's on repeat. I bang the walls multiple times, but nothing. Since I'm working from home today, I don't have to start work until 7, but I'm so angry that I decided to log on early. I can hear the effing Lady Gaga songs from all areas of my apartment. It doesn't stop. At 10 a.m., it still hasn't stopped, assuming he was really drunk and fell asleep to it, which doesn't help me because I can still effing hear it. It has been playing for 4 hours. I would start to quite literally and physically lose my mind. I would go insane. I can't even make this up. I also didn't have his phone number, so I couldn't call or anything. But next time I see him, I'm gonna say something. I have never met such an idiot in my life. How can you be such an a-hole in life? Seriously, how do people like this even function? Running on 2 hours of sleep right now, it's unreal to me that people like this actually exist. No consideration for others. Also, I could understand if maybe these guys were 16. I was probably really annoying at 16, even at 18 or 19. But WTF, guys in their mid-30s, are they all unemployed? No, for real. I wonder the same thing because I'm like, how are people partying like this at this age? I can't hang. You know, I try once in a while. I go out, I have a good time, I'm social. Girl just cannot hang the same way. And honestly, I don't want to. I'd rather be in bed watching Hannah Montana. Just moved into our new home, neighbor vandalized car and already called the city on us. We just bought a house and we knew the previous owner. We knew they had problems with neighbors across the street, Gary, like having the city call and complain about weeds and so on. We dismissed it, thinking it was probably valid. We've met all the other neighbors and they're all super nice and helpful and agreed Gary is crazy and a big pain in the arse. We spent 2 months renovating the house before moving in and we had a waste management dumpster bag out front, holding miscellaneous debris. We moved in and less than a week after moving in, I got a visit from the city inspector citing us for blight. She was apologetic, explaining the single baseboard that was outside of the bag needed to be put inside it. I was so shaken and confused about getting a citation. She just explained, I can't tell you who the neighbor is, but the previous owners would have this neighbor complain a lot. I have been to this house a lot. I'm so sorry. I talked to the other neighbors we know and they vented about him saying it was ridiculous. All right, no prob. We can deal with this. Our niece is staying with us and had a friend stay the night. They parked across the street in front of Gary's house. When they went to leave the next morning, their front passenger tire was flat with the valve stem core missing. They stupidly drove to get air in it and got the core replaced. My niece called me to tell me what happened and I mentioned it to my next door neighbor, Nicole. She immediately exclaimed, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that's Gary." I went over immediately and she told me this story. A few years ago, Gary's next door neighbor, renters, had their adult daughter living with them. The daughter parked in front of Gary's house one night. The next morning, Nicole was outside chatting with another neighbor when the daughter, distraught, says her tire is flat. They look and the valve stem core is missing. She panicked because she's going to be late for work, so the other neighbors help her get her tire inflated and fixed. Nicole said it was such an odd thing to have happen because these parts don't just fall out. It has to be physically removed with a tool or gizmo. Fast forward to yesterday. I go to Nicole's house and I talk to her and her husband. He had taken a picture of the car parked at Gary's, thinking it was a car from a Verbo down the street, and was worried something would happen, not knowing it was my niece's friend. In the photo, you can see she's not parked illegally. She is perfectly legal on the street. We have no proof it was Gary, but obviously suspect that it was him. My spouse and I are so mad, and I am petty as hell. So my current plan is to file a police report to document it, have the police talk to Nicole and her husband, and set up the next night vision cameras money can buy and I can afford to cover all aspects of my yard. Plus, get some for Nicole's house. What else should we do? I think you're doing it all. I will always encourage the use of cameras because that is our evidence. Always. So, you're doing the right thing. The crazy neighbor stories just don't stop. I'll see you guys next time. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. See you tomorrow.